If you follow the trends, you might be hearing a lot about the Metaverse. Edward Beltran is the CEO of Fierce Conversations. His company is spearheading the use of the Metaverse for working e-skills training, which is an interesting topic. Edward, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for having me. Congratulations on your book. I'm looking forward to downloading it.
Oh, no, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. So when we hear the term Metaverse, it's really kind of a broad term that's still being defined a little bit. So how do you define it as it relates to e-skills training?
Yeah, absolutely. That was a good point. You know, sometimes we hear these buzzwords in our nomenclature. You're like, well, what is that, right? Like, for example, cloud computing. We've been saving files up into the cloud forever, right? On remote servers, and these words come in our nomenclature. So Metaverse has popped up. It's been used for a little bit, but really it encompasses these technologies like 3D or VR type of experiences, if you will. So as it applies to what we're doing around training, it's simple. We're building these game-like environments that let you walk through a scenario that you would encounter in real life, and you choose your path and you learn from those experiences just like in a game. Now, the beautiful thing is that you could hit redo and start over as opposed to real life where you're like, made a big mistake there. How do I recover from it?
Yeah, we're taking a look at it right now, some examples of that. So this is something, because there's a lot of people that are working remotely now. This is something that could be done anywhere, right? You don't have to be in an office to go through this training program.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the beautiful thing about it, Scott, is this. If you'll recall traditional training, typically you go offline for hours or days at a time, which is great. We still do that. But there's a lot of populations that can't be taken offline, like retail employees or nurses, and I'm happy to share with you some of our success stories. But also, too, there's just a reality that some people don't learn that way, right? And the analogy I like to use is like reading a book. Some people want the physical book to be able to highlight, dog ear, write notes in it. And other people want the Kindle version that's more convenient, and yet others want to listen to it on Audible or wait for the movie, right? And if the topic is that impactful, then it's our job to make it palatable for everybody who can consume it, especially what we do here at Fierce, which is to improve lives one conversation at a time.
One of the things that we're checking out, sort of the trends as we talk about the way people work today, is a lot of communication issues that go in. So specifically when you're talking about training, how does this training program help people improve communication? Because we're having to communicate differently. You and I are on Zoom, and this seems so normal, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So Scott, I think it's, I would like to take just a minute just to describe in a nutshell what we do, and then I think it'll come to light more on the power of the technology.
Please do.
For the past 20 years at Fierce, we've taught conversation techniques to like 300 of the Fortune 500 companies down to emerging startups. So, all right, Ed, what is conversation techniques? And really what it is in your day-to-day, you have tons of interactions. Now, if you think of an organization or any population, that's a lot of interactions amongst people. And in there, you walk away from a situation saying, what happened there? I'm really confused, or why did Scott say that to me? And why am I feeling angry about that, right? And so really what we do is we give you the tools to be able to engage your environment and say, hey, Scott, I got some feedback for you. I noticed this. Or, hey, Scott, we've had this recurring situation. I think we need to, connect. And the idea is that it's just not a one-sided conversation. A one-sided dialogue. It's a conversation. It's like, hey, what's showing up for you? And what we found in our research, which has been tremendously helpful in the past 20 years, is that most of the time it's just a misunderstanding. People aren't self-aware, or they made an inadvertent mistake. And instead of it being binary, you enrich the relationship and move into a positive direction. Now, to your point, Scott, we're in a very interesting time in our history where race, politics, like all these are touchy subjects, and people have different point of views. So does it have to be so binary, or can we really come together in a conversation and learn from one another? Might not change each other's minds, right? But especially in the workforce, we can come together. So one of our case studies is around microaggressions, which I'm happy to get into more details about as we get into our interview.
Well, and I guess where I was going with that, and I appreciate you kind of setting that up for the viewer, because it really does kind of paint the picture of where you're coming from. I think because communication has changed so much, we're having less and less of that in-person conversation. We're having more video conversations. We're having more texting and email and shorter communication. So I'd love to kind of pick your brain on that, on how you're using this technology and using your years of experience in helping companies really kind of learn how to better communicate as the workforce is constantly changing.
Yes, and my apologies for not connecting the dot. Your thoughts, your question was very clear. Really what it comes down to is this, is these digital modalities are more efficient, but they're also prone to these misunderstandings that I'm talking about. And it's giving people the training and confidence to pick up the phone and say, hey, Scott, we're not solving this through text. We're not solving this through Zoom. Like, what's happening, right? That's the shortest distance between 2 points. And that's what we're teaching. Like, this is how you solve these problems, right?
Absolutely. No, it's crazy how that is, how that's changing. But at the end of the day, it's all humans, right? We're all humans, and we all need to take time to kind of work through that. Do you see this Metaverse technology? Do you see that replacing the traditional training that we're so accustomed to?
No, I don't. As I mentioned before, it comes down to the way people like to learn. And what we're finding is two huge applications for this Metaverse training that we talked about. One is sustainability. So if you're like Scott, if you're like, hey, I'm Scott, I learn quicker in person and I want 4 hours of training. And then 2 months down the line, you're like, I need to confront my producer or my investor. What did I learn 2 months ago? The simulations allow you to quickly, in 15 minutes or less, get up to speed with how you do that and get the confidence to do it. Because it's one thing for us to give people guidance like confront your boss, and it's another one to give them the confidence to do it, right? They actually have to have it. The second one is what I mentioned before, which is all these populations that can't be taken offline. So for example, during COVID, we're very proud of the work that we did to help nurses and doctors connect in 2 big hospital chains we work with. They came to us and they said, we need nurses to be able to provide feedback and confront physicians, and they can't be taken offline for hours or days because we're in the middle of COVID.
Right.
And yet they're so important. They're like our heroes. They're on the ground floor. They're the quarterbacks in these situations, and they need these practical tools. So we built literally 3 scenarios that they were able to get to in 15 minutes or less and have a huge impact on their day-to-day.
That's awesome.
And positive patient outcomes.
Edward, do you have time to stick around for one more segment?
I absolutely do. Thank you.
No, I'd love to have you stick around because this topic is something we're all thinking about. Technology is always fascinating to me, and we have a lot of business leaders that watch this show that I think could really benefit from your services. Stick around. You're watching Create, Build, and Manage Daily.